I honestly never thought I'd be that guy. You know, the one who gets blindsided in his marriage. We've been married for 6 years, no kids, just the two of us. I always thought we were solid. Or at least, I did until a few weeks ago when my entire world came crashing down. My wife, Kate, started taking Uber rides more often about 4 months ago. At first, I didn't think much of it. She's always hated driving in the city, and with her late work nights, it made sense. Plus, she said it was safer, right? But she started requesting the same driver all the time. "Mark," she'd say with a smile. "He's super nice, makes me feel safe, you know?" At first, I brushed it off. Why would I care if she had a regular driver? It seemed like a small detail. I'd hear her mentioning Mark more often, though, little things. "Mark told me this." Or, "Mark recommended this great restaurant." I'd ask if we could try the restaurant, and she'd just brush it off. "Maybe sometime." And then never bring it up again. Looking back, it's obvious, but back then, I was so deep in my routine that I didn't think anything of it. I work long hours, and by the time I got home, Kate was already in bed or out with friends. She's always had a lot of girls' nights over the years, and I just figured this was more of the same. But I started noticing she was coming home later and later. One night, I asked her about it, and she got defensive. "I'm allowed to have a life outside of you," she snapped. That was new. She was never that sharp with me before. But I let it go. I thought maybe she's just stressed from work. Then there were the work trips. Oh man, the work trips. She suddenly had to travel out of town more often. At first, it was once a month. Then it became every other weekend. I even asked her if I could come along for one of them, you know, to spend some time together. She laughed and said, "You'd be bored. It's all meetings and boring dinners." In hindsight, it's ridiculous that I didn't see it sooner. But I trusted her. Why wouldn't I? Things started getting weird after that. Kate became more distant, even when she was home. She'd always be on her phone, texting constantly, laughing at something she wouldn't share with me. If I asked who she was talking to, she'd roll her eyes and say it was just her friends from work. I didn't push. I mean, every couple has their own space, right? But then there was this one night, maybe about a month ago, when she came home much later than usual. She reeked of alcohol, her clothes all messed up, and her hair looked like she'd been in a wind tunnel. I asked her if everything was okay, and she just slurred. "I was out with Mark. He's so funny. You'd love him." Mark. There it was again. The same damn driver. I asked her why she was hanging out with her Uber driver after work, and she lost it. Completely flipped. "Why are you so controlling, huh? Can I have a friend?" Her voice was sharp, and I swear, she looked at me like I was the one who was losing it. I tried to calm her down, but she just stormed off to the bedroom, slamming the door behind her. I slept on the couch that night, still trying to wrap my head around everything. I told myself it was just the alcohol, that she'd apologize in the morning. But the next day, she acted like nothing happened. She was back to being sweet and acting like the perfect wife. She even suggested we go out for dinner, which she hadn't done in months. I started to feel like maybe I was overthinking things, like maybe it was just a rough patch and we'd get through it. Then she started taking more trips with Mark. She'd be gone for hours, claiming she was running errands or visiting her mom. I asked her why she didn't just drive herself, and she said something about not wanting to deal with parking. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. But something felt off. And when I tried to bring it up again, she immediately went on the defensive. "Are you seriously still hung up on this? You're being paranoid." She was so good at twisting things, making me feel like the bad guy for even questioning her. But then came the night that changed everything. The night that opened my eyes to the absolute shitstorm my marriage had become. That night started out like any other. I had just finished a late shift at work, and came home around 11 p.m. The apartment was dark and silent, and an uneasy feeling settled in my stomach. Kate wasn't home yet, which was unusual for a weeknight. I tried calling her, but it went straight to voicemail. I figured she was out with friends again, maybe still with Mark, and I felt a wave of frustration wash over me. I paced around the living room, replaying all the little signs in my mind, every late night, every evasive answer. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was seriously wrong. Around midnight, I decided to check the Uber app on my phone. I know, it sounds invasive, but I needed to know if she was really out with friends or if she was with Mark again. To my surprise, her account showed multiple rides taken that night, all with the same driver, Mark. My heart dropped. I felt sick to my stomach as the realization hit me like a ton of bricks. In a blind panic, I decided to track the last ride. It showed her getting dropped off a few blocks away from our apartment, near a bar. The anger boiling inside me was almost overwhelming. I grabbed my jacket, determined to find her. I'd confront her, make her admit what was going on. As I approached the bar, I noticed a familiar car parked on the street, Mark's Uber. My heart raced, and I felt a mix of dread and anger. I crept around the corner and peered through the windows, my breath catching in my throat. What I saw made my blood run cold. There was Kate, right there in the back seat, with Mark. They were laughing, sharing intimate whispers, their bodies close. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I saw the way her hand slid over his thigh, how he leaned in closer, and I felt rage explode in my chest. Then, just as I was about to step forward, I saw them kiss. It was a kiss that told me everything I needed to know, everything I had been too blind to see. In that moment, all the doubt melted away, and I realized I wasn't just overreacting. I had been betrayed in the worst possible way. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone, snapping a quick picture of them together. The reality of the situation hit me like a wave. I had to get out of there before they noticed me. I felt sick, furious, and utterly humiliated. As I turned to leave, I caught a glimpse of them through the window again. That's when everything took a turn for the worse. I heard laughter turn into something more heated, and as I watched, their bodies shifted. I could hardly believe it when I saw her straddling him in the back seat. They were having sex right there, in that Uber. I stood frozen, my heart pounding in my ears, the betrayal slicing deeper than any knife. I took a deep breath and stepped back, a storm of emotions raging inside me. I was done. I was ready to confront her, and end this charade once and for all. I stumbled back toward the apartment, my mind racing with anger and confusion. I couldn't believe this was happening. My wife, my Kate, was cheating on me with her Uber driver. It felt surreal, like I was watching a twisted reality show, but it was my life. When I got home, I paced back and forth in the living room, the weight of the betrayal heavy on my shoulders. I felt nauseous, my heart racing with every thought of her laughing with him, kissing him, giving herself to him. I needed a plan. I couldn't just confront her without knowing what to say, how to handle this. About an hour later, I heard the front door click open. She walked in, looking disheveled and slightly out of breath. "Hey, babe! Sorry, I lost track of time at the bar," she said, trying to sound cheerful. But the moment she stepped into the light, I saw the guilt flash across her face. "Kate," I said, my voice low and steady. "We need to talk." Her smile faltered. "What's wrong? You sound serious. I saw you tonight. With Mark." Her face went pale. For a moment, she just stared at me, a mix of shock and panic flickering in her eyes. "What do you mean? I wasn't with him. I was at the bar with friends." "Cut the crap, Kate. I saw you in the back seat of the car. I saw you two having sex." The words left my mouth like a bullet, and her expression twisted into a mask of fury. "How dare you!" she screamed, her voice rising. "You're just trying to make me look bad. You always do this." "I'm trying to make you look bad? You're the one cheating on me." I shot back, feeling adrenaline pump through my veins. "Whatever! You don't know what you're talking about," she shouted, her voice shaking with anger. "You're so paranoid and controlling. I can't even have a friend without you flipping out." "Friend?" I laughed bitterly, disbelief flooding my system. "You've been lying to me for months. You think I'm going to buy that? I trusted you, and you betrayed me in the worst way. Stop it! You're being ridiculous, she hissed, crossing her arms defensively. I'm not the one who's been paranoid. You're just insecure, and this is all in your head. At that moment, the woman I thought I knew had disappeared. She was right in front of me, but the anger and denial had turned her into a stranger. I have proof, Kate. I took a picture of you two together. Her eyes widened, a flicker of fear crossing her face before she quickly masked it with defiance. You wouldn't dare! Oh, I absolutely would. And you know what? I'm done. I can't keep doing this. I'm filing for divorce. The words hung in the air like a death sentence, and for a moment she just stood there, speechless. Then, suddenly, the hysterics began. No! You can't do that! You're overreacting. This isn't what you think. I had never seen her like this. Her voice cracked, and she was practically pleading. You can't just throw everything away because of a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? I repeated, incredulity washing over me. You've been lying and cheating on me. This isn't just some little mistake. She collapsed onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. You don't understand. I was just trying to have fun. You've been so wrapped up in work, and I felt so alone. Her sobs turned to screams, and the woman I once loved was reduced to a mess of hysteria. But I felt nothing, no sympathy, no pity. Just the stark realization that this was it. My heart hardened, and I turned away from her, knowing deep down that I wouldn't let her manipulation pull me back in. Get some sleep, Kate. I'm done talking, I said coldly, heading to the bedroom. As I closed the door behind me, I felt a strange sense of relief wash over me. I finally knew the truth, and I was ready to move on. The next few days were a whirlwind of emotions, anger, sadness, and an overwhelming sense of betrayal. I didn't sleep well, my mind racing with thoughts of Kate and Mark. I was determined to gather my thoughts and prepare for what lay ahead, but every time I glanced at Kate, I was reminded of the life I thought I had built with her. Kate acted like nothing had happened. It was as if she expected me to just forget the entire ordeal. She went about her daily routine, cooking dinner, tidying up the apartment, but there was a heavy silence hanging in the air. Every time she walked into the room, I could feel the tension. Then came the night when everything erupted again. I was sitting at the kitchen table, going over some legal documents for the divorce, when Kate walked in, her face painted with feigned innocence. What are you doing? She asked, leaning against the door frame, arms crossed. Just preparing for the divorce, I replied flatly, not bothering to look up. Do you have to be such a jerk about it? She shot back. I told you I was sorry. I was just trying to feel alive again. You've been so distant. Distant? I turned to face her, disbelief creeping into my voice. You think your infidelity is my fault? You've been cheating on me for months. Her expression twisted, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of guilt before it morphed into anger again. You wouldn't understand. You've never even tried to see my side of things. I was done with her manipulation. You mean your side of things? The side where you have sex with your Uber driver? I snapped. You've made your choice, Kate. I'm not going to keep pretending like everything is okay. You're ruining everything, she screamed, her voice echoing in the small kitchen. I was just having fun. You never took me anywhere anymore, and I felt like I was suffocating. Having fun? With another man? I shot back, my voice rising. You could have talked to me. But instead, you chose to betray me. This isn't about feeling suffocated. This is about you not being able to be faithful. Her face twisted in fury, and she stepped closer, pointing a finger at me. You don't get to act all high and mighty. You're the one who pushed me away with your work. You're the one who made me feel alone. That was it. I snapped. You know what? If you really felt that way, you could have had the decency to discuss it with me. But instead, you decided to fuck your Uber driver. You think that's justified? You're making excuses for your behavior. Suddenly, she broke down, her tough facade crumbling. I just wanted to feel desired again. I thought maybe you didn't love me anymore. She sobbed, tears streaming down her face. I felt a strange mix of anger and pity as I watched her. You think cheating is a way to feel desired? You don't even realize how messed up that is, do you? I thought we could work things out after everything, she whispered, her voice raw. I thought you could forgive me. I shook my head, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders as I stood firm in my decision. No, Kate. This isn't something I can forgive. You broke my trust and it's gone. I don't want to continue living this lie. As her sobs echoed through the kitchen, I felt a strange calm settle over me. I had finally found the strength to stand my ground. I turned to grab my things and move into the spare room for the night when suddenly, Kate lunged at me, desperation in her eyes. Please don't leave me. I can change. I swear I'll make it up to you, she pleaded, grabbing my arm. I pulled away, my resolve hardening. You had your chance, and you threw it away. I need space. I can't keep doing this. With that, I walked away, leaving her in a torrent of tears, the realization sinking in that I was serious about moving on. I needed to protect myself, to focus on the future. This wasn't just a bump in the road, it was the end of a chapter, and I was ready to start anew. The days that followed were agonizingly slow. I moved into the spare room, a small space filled with boxes and old furniture, but it felt like a fortress compared to the turmoil in the main living area. Kate was a constant presence, her desperation palpable. She'd leave me notes, sometimes flowers, and every time I stepped into the kitchen, she'd make a point to ask how my day was going, trying to feign normalcy. But there was nothing normal about this situation. I could feel her eyes on me when I got home from work, searching for signs of weakness or regret. I knew she was hoping I'd cave, that I'd somehow forget the betrayal and the hurt. But each interaction only reminded me of what she had done. Then came the day when I decided to start the divorce proceedings. I met with a lawyer, a kind, older woman who listened patiently as I recounted my story. As I spoke, it became clearer to me that this was the right decision. I deserved better. After finalizing some paperwork, I felt a sense of relief wash over me, but it was short-lived. As I returned home, I noticed Kate sitting on the couch, her face a mask of hope and determination. Can we talk? She asked, her voice softer than usual. I hesitated, but I nodded, bracing myself for the conversation. What is it? I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. I know things have been rough, and I'm sorry for everything, she began, fidgeting with her hands. But I've been thinking. We can make this work. I'll do anything. I can quit my job, we can go to couples therapy, just please don't go through with the divorce. Her plea felt desperate, and for a fleeting moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Kate, I don't think you understand, I said firmly. This isn't just about what you want. You cheated on me. You betrayed my trust in the most fundamental way. But I was just confused. I was trying to find myself again, she argued, her voice rising. I can fix this. I can be the wife you want me to be. Just give me a chance. I shook my head, my resolve solid. You don't get to decide that for me. You had your chance, and you threw it away. You don't just get to pretend this never happened because you're scared of losing me. Her expression turned to one of anger. So, you're just going to throw everything away? You're going to destroy our marriage over one mistake? One mistake? You make it sound so casual. This was not just a mistake, this was a choice. A choice to cheat, to lie, and to betray me, I said, my voice rising. Do you even understand the magnitude of what you've done? The confrontation escalated, each of us digging deeper into our stances, but I felt an unfamiliar strength in standing my ground. I had spent too long questioning myself, too long thinking I had done something wrong. The truth was I hadn't. In the heat of the moment, I decided it was time to be done with this. I turned to leave the room when she yelled, You're going to regret this. You think you can just walk away and forget me? I paused, turning to face her one last time. I'm already starting to forget the person you used to be, Kate. I can't keep dragging this out. It's time to move on. As I walked away, I felt a mix of relief and sadness. It was over, but the weight of the situation still hung over me. I knew I was doing the right thing, but it didn't make the heartbreak any easier. That night, I settled into the spare room, determined to find my footing again. I began making plans for my future, seeking solace in friends and work. But as the days passed, I couldn't shake the feeling that Kate would stop at nothing to try to win me back, and I needed to be ready for whatever she had up her sleeve. Just when I thought things couldn't get any more complicated, Kate's determination took a turn for the dramatic. A few days after our last confrontation, I received an unexpected message from her. "We need to talk. I promise you'll want to hear this. Please come home early." I rolled my eyes, trying to ignore the anxious knot forming in my stomach. She had a way of making me feel guilty, like I was the villain in her narrative. But I was resolute. I wouldn't let her manipulation sway me. Yet, the curiosity gnawed at me, and against my better judgment, I agreed to come home early from work. When I walked in, the atmosphere was thick with tension. The lights were dimmed, and I could smell something sweet wafting from the kitchen. Kate stood there, dressed up as if we were going out for a romantic dinner. It was surreal. "Hey, I wanted to do something special," she said, her voice brightening as she noticed me. "What's going on?" I asked, my tone flat. I wasn't in the mood for games or false hope. "I know I messed up, but I've really been working on myself," she said, nervously smoothing her dress. "I've decided to quit my job. I want to show you that I'm committed to making this work." Her words felt like a slap in the face. "Quitting your job? Just like that? You think that's going to erase what you did? I just want us to go back to how things were. I know I made mistakes, but I promise I can change. We can start fresh, just the two of us," she pleaded, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. I felt a mix of anger and confusion. "You can't just quit your job and expect me to forget everything. You don't get to put this on me, Kate. You made your choices, and I have to deal with the consequences." She stepped closer, desperation etched on her face. "But I love you. I've realized that I need you, and I don't want to lose you. Please just give me another chance." I shook my head, feeling the familiar weight of her manipulation creeping back in. "You think love can just fix everything? You can't throw around words like love when you've shattered the trust we built together." Her expression hardened, and she took a step back, frustration radiating from her. "So what? You're just going to throw away 6 years of marriage? You're ready to end this over a little fun?" I took a deep breath, struggling to maintain my composure. "It's not a little fun. It's a betrayal. You crossed the line, Kate, and you can't just act like it never happened." In a sudden fit of rage, she picked up a glass from the counter and smashed it against the floor. "You're impossible. You're making this so much harder than it has to be." I stood there, shocked, as shards of glass scattered across the floor. The sight of her breaking down fueled my anger. "This is not how you win me back. This is just another manipulation tactic, and I'm not falling for it. You don't understand. I'm trying to fight for us," she yelled, tears streaming down her face. "Fighting for us? It's too late for that. You should have thought about us before you decided to sleep with someone else." I shot back, feeling my heart harden. Her sobs turned to hysterical laughter, a sound that sent chills down my spine. "You really think you can just walk away? You'll regret it, I promise. You'll see how good we can be together when I change." I turned on my heel and headed toward the door, my heart pounding in my chest. I had to get out of there. I could feel her eyes burning into my back, a mix of fury and desperation. As I stepped outside, I took a deep breath of the cool night air, grateful for the space. I knew I had to be careful. Kate was unpredictable, and I could feel her desperation turning into something darker. I had to prepare myself for whatever she would do next. Little did I know, her next move would shatter any remaining illusions I had about the woman I once loved. The next morning, I woke up with a heavy heart, dreading the thought of facing Kate again. I needed a break from everything, so I decided to take my bike out for a ride to clear my head. The sun was shining, and the fresh air felt refreshing against my skin as I pedaled down familiar streets. I lost myself in the rhythm of the ride, but the nagging thoughts about Kate and her desperate behavior lingered in the back of my mind. After an hour of cycling, I returned home, feeling somewhat lighter, only to find a strange car parked outside our apartment. My stomach dropped. It was Mark's car. Anger flared up inside me, but I tried to remain calm as I approached the door. Maybe she had just called him for a ride, though the idea made me sick. As I stepped inside, I could hear raised voices. I followed the sound and found Kate in the living room, her face flushed and her hands on her hips. Mark stood across from her, looking tense and uncomfortable. It felt like walking into a scene from a bad play, and I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. "What the hell is going on here?" I demanded, stepping into the room. Kate spun around, eyes wide with surprise. "Ilya! I didn't expect you home so soon." "Oh, really? And what's he doing here?" I pointed at Mark, unable to keep the venom out of my voice. "Mark was just helping me with some things," Kate replied, her tone defensive. "You don't need to get worked up over nothing." "Nothing? You're in the middle of a conversation with the guy you cheated on me with." I shot back, my anger boiling over. Mark looked visibly uncomfortable, shifting on his feet. "Hey man, I didn't mean to intrude. I was just giving Kate a ride." "Save it," I interrupted. "I don't want to hear anything from you. You need to leave. Now." Mark opened his mouth to protest, but Kate stepped in. "No! This isn't his fault. He was just being nice." "Nice? You call this nice? You're trying to paint him as some kind of saint when he's the one who helped you destroy our marriage." I felt rage surge through me as I pointed at the door. "Get out, Mark! Look, man, I didn't mean to come between you two. I was just trying to help," he stammered, raising his hands in surrender. I could see the look in Kate's eyes. She was desperate to keep Mark there, to cling to whatever semblance of comfort she could find. "I'll handle this, Mark. Just give me a moment." Mark hesitated but eventually walked out, leaving the two of us in a heavy silence. I turned to Kate, my chest tightening with anger and betrayal. "How dare you? You think I'm just going to sit back and watch you spiral deeper into this mess? I didn't ask him to come here," she shouted, tears filling her eyes. "He just showed up. I was trying to get my life back together, and now you're making it impossible." "I'm making it impossible? You've made it impossible for yourself," I replied, my voice hoarse with anger. "You're still living in denial, thinking you can fix everything by having him around." She opened her mouth to respond but then just started crying, her shoulders shaking. "I don't know what to do. I feel lost without you, and I thought if I had him here, it would help me figure things out." "You think that's the answer? Going back to the guy you cheated with?" I felt a mix of anger and pity for her. "You're so deep in denial, Kate. You can't just keep pretending everything will be fine if you surround yourself with the same people who hurt you." She fell silent, her anger giving way to a sense of despair. "What do you want from me? I'm trying to fix things. I want you to take responsibility for your actions. You can't keep running to Mark when things get tough. You need to start figuring out how to fix yourself first." She looked up at me, her eyes red and puffy. "I just want you back. Can't we try one more time?" I shook my head, feeling my heart break a little more. "No, Kate. I'm done trying. I can't keep doing this. I deserve someone who won't betray me, who won't run to someone else when things get hard." She crumbled to the floor, sobs racking her body. "Please, Ilya. I'll do anything." I took a step back, feeling the weight of the moment crash down on me. I turned and walked away, feeling like a part of me was breaking. This was it. I had to cut ties, no matter how hard it was. Little did I know, her desperation would push her to make a choice that would change everything. That night, I couldn't shake the feeling of dread that settled in the pit of my stomach. I lay in the spare room, tossing and turning as memories of Kate and the life we shared played on repeat in my mind. I wanted to be strong, to stand firm in my decision, but part of me still held on to the hope that she might change. I woke up early the next morning, feeling the weight of the world on my shoulders. As I brewed coffee, my phone buzzed on the counter. It was a message from an unknown number. I hesitated, then opened it. My heart dropped as I read the words. "You need to see this. It's about Kate." Against my better judgment, I replied, asking who it was. Moments later, I received a photo. It showed Kate and Mark outside a bar, their arms around each other, laughing and clearly enjoying each other's company. It was taken just a few hours after our explosive argument the day before. Anger surged through me, but it was accompanied by a sinking feeling of betrayal. I felt the air leave my lungs as I realized she hadn't changed at all. She was still playing the same games, pretending she was moving forward while clinging to the very person who had broken us. I paced the kitchen, my heart racing, trying to make sense of what I'd just seen. My hands trembled as I composed a message to the sender, demanding to know who they were and how they got the photo. "I'll tell you everything," they replied. "But you need to meet me in person." I weighed my options, torn between the impulse to confront Kate and the need for clarity. I decided to meet this mysterious person, hoping they had more information. The meeting was set for a nearby cafe. As I arrived, I felt a mix of anticipation and anxiety. I scanned the room until my eyes landed on a familiar figure. It was Mark. He sat at a corner table, looking surprisingly calm, a coffee in front of him. "What the hell are you doing here?" I asked, keeping my voice low but laced with anger. "Just hear me out," he said, raising his hands in defense. "I didn't want to get involved in your relationship, but I've seen Kate spiral out of control, and I think you deserve to know the truth." "Go on," I snapped, crossing my arms. He sighed, glancing around to make sure no one was eavesdropping. "After our last encounter, Kate kept reaching out to me. I told her to back off, but she wouldn't listen. She thinks she can still have both of us in her life. She called me last night, asking if I could meet her. I didn't want to, but I felt responsible." "Responsible for what?" "You're the one who slept with her." I know. But listen," he said, his voice lowering. "I think she's using me to fill some void. She's not over you, Ilya. But she's also not ready to give up this fantasy." "Which fantasy? The one where she's dating her Uber driver?" I shot back, feeling my heart race. "Look, she thinks she can keep you both around, but she's going to hurt both of you in the process," he insisted. "I don't want to be part of this mess anymore. I'm telling you this because I think you need to confront her." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You want me to confront her? You're the one who's been fueling this fire." "I know. I messed up, but I don't want to see her drag you both down. She needs to choose, and you need to know what's really going on." The weight of his words hit me hard. I didn't want to be dragged into a situation that would only lead to more heartache, but part of me knew I had to confront Kate again. "Fine. I'll talk to her," I said, standing up. "But if this goes south, I'm holding you accountable." Mark nodded, a look of relief washing over his face. "I'll step back. But just know that she's playing a dangerous game." As I walked away from the cafe, I felt a surge of determination. I would confront Kate again, but this time I would be prepared. I wouldn't let her manipulate me into feeling guilty or unsure. I had to take control of this situation once and for all. When I got home, I found Kate in the living room, looking lost in thought. She glanced up, surprise flickering across her face. "Ilya! You're home early," she said, forcing a smile. "Save it," I said, my voice steady. "We need to talk. Now." Her expression faltered, and I could see the panic in her eyes as I approached her. I wasn't going to let her run away from this. It was time for the truth to come out, no matter how painful it might be. "Talk about what?" Kate asked, feigning innocence, but I could see the nervousness in her eyes. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the confrontation ahead. "About you and Mark. I know you met up with him last night." Her face paled. What? That's ridiculous. I told you I'm trying to fix things, and he's just trying to help. Help? Is that what you call it? I replied, my voice rising. Because what I saw, what I know, says otherwise. You can't keep lying to me, Kate. I have proof. I pulled out my phone, ready to show her the message and the photo I received. But as I lifted it, she lunged forward, attempting to snatch it from my hands. Stop! You don't need to see that. Why not? Is it because you know you're about to be exposed for the lies you've been spinning? I stepped back, keeping the phone away from her grasp. You've been playing both sides, and it ends now. She backed away, her face twisting with frustration. I'm not playing anyone. You don't understand. I was confused. I just needed someone to help me through this. Help? You've been running back to the same guy who betrayed our trust. You think this is helping? My heart raced as I pressed on. You don't get to play the victim when you're the one who made the choice to cheat. Tears welled in her eyes as she took a shaky breath. I thought I could fix it. I thought if I surrounded myself with people, it would help me forget about everything. Surrounding yourself with Mark isn't going to help anything. It's just going to drag you deeper into this mess. I felt the anger surging again, but I fought to keep my tone steady. You need to choose, Kate. Do you want to fight for us, or do you want to keep dragging this out? I want you. I just don't know how to get there, she cried, her voice rising in desperation. Please, I can change. Just give me time. Time? You've had time, Kate. You've had plenty of time to figure this out, and all you've done is run back to the same mistakes. I took a step closer, lowering my voice to a harsh whisper. I won't be part of this anymore. You've pushed me to my limit. She shook her head vehemently, her expression shifting to one of panic. You can't just throw everything away. We've built a life together. I felt my resolve harden. You threw it away the moment you decided to sleep with someone else. This is not on me, it's on you. The weight of the conversation pressed down on us like a suffocating blanket. Kate's face twisted in a mix of anger and despair, and for a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. But then I remembered the pain, the lies, and the betrayal. I couldn't go back. Fine. If that's how you feel, then maybe you should just leave, she said, her voice sharp. I blinked in surprise. What? If you think you can just walk away from everything, then go. You think I care? Her voice trembled, but there was an edge of defiance in it that cut deep. My heart sank, but I stood my ground. I'm not going anywhere. I'm ready to move on, Kate. I've made my choice, and it's time for you to make yours. Move on? You think it's that easy? She spat, anger flashing in her eyes. You'll regret this. You'll see how much I can change when you're gone. Change doesn't happen overnight, and it certainly doesn't happen while you're still clinging to the past, I said. I'm tired of this toxic cycle. I deserve better. With that, I turned to leave, but Kate's voice stopped me. You don't get to walk away from this. I will make you regret this choice. I glanced back, the weight of her words hanging in the air. You're only proving my point, Kate. You're still making this about you, and it's not. It's about what's best for both of us. I can't keep fighting for something that no longer exists. With that, I walked out of the apartment, feeling an unfamiliar mix of sadness and freedom wash over me. It felt like a weight had been lifted, yet my heart ached for the memories we shared. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew one thing. I was finally taking control of my life, and I wouldn't let her desperation or anger drag me down any longer. As I stepped out into the crisp air, I took a deep breath, ready to embrace the unknown. Whatever came next, I would face it on my own terms, and that was the most empowering choice I could make. In the end, it was clear, the road ahead would be challenging, but I was ready to pave it for myself.